Hey everybody, welcome back. Great to see everybody here. Patrick is wearing his Oracle Red Bull Racing shirt. I don't know if you all can see that. He's very excited about that. He did not get to go to the race last weekend. I don't think he would have liked it, but it was very hot and it was very noisy. And it certainly is a really high pressure environment. You know, Oracle's been partnered with Red Bull Racing for a number of years now. And it's a really interesting time. It was a really interesting time to be in Miami because there are all kinds of new regulations happening in the sport all the time. You know, it's not like other sports where the rules don't change. And there's this tradition of sort of challenging rules and penalties during a race. And you don't have a lot of time to kind of figure out how to challenge. And there are also a lot of stricter rules on sort of post-race review and post-race penalties now. So teams have to make really quick decisions about rules and penalties based on what's happening in the race with a very limited time window, but they also have to understand how the stewards have ruled in the past, like what the precedents are, to decide kind of how they want to play things. So one of the really interesting things they've done with Oracle is to use an AI agent to be able to digest what's happening during the race, digest all the previous rules and rulings that the stewards have made, and then make a decision about how best to move forward. So it's really kind of a great example of that sort of real-time pressure on decision-making. Also, for the first time in recent history, Red Bull is an F1 team that started building its own engine. So yes, they're getting some help from Ford, but sort of spinning up design, build, and testing of an engine from scratch within a pretty short period of time versus other competitors that have been building engines for decades, you know, and they're using Oracle technology to help them do all the simulations around that. They do more than 8 billion simulations, I think, a race, and billions across sort of the engine building and testing facility. So it means that Oracle Red Bull Racing is using data in some pretty amazing ways to be competitive in Formula One. And it seems like every tech company these days has their sticker on a Formula One car, but there's really a lot more to the Oracle Red Bull partnership that I learned about. Before last week's race in Miami, I had the chance to sit down with Jack Harington, who's partnership group lead at Oracle Red Bull Racing, to learn more. I have a little clip of our conversation to share with you, but I will warn you, it ends very abruptly, and that is because basically they told us we had to go and get in the cars if we were going to make it to the track. So let's go ahead and listen to what Jack had to say. It's race day here in Miami. I'm here with Jack Harington from Oracle Red Bull Racing. Thank you for joining me.
Pleasure to be here.
It's an exciting weekend.
It should hopefully be an exciting weekend. Very hot, but exciting.
Yeah, good stuff. So I was thinking as you were talking this morning about how, you know, it's always been about the car and the driver, but as technology gets more advanced, with all due respect to Max and young Isaac, have we moved where the technology is almost more important than the driver today?
I'd say that actually Formula One, especially in recent history, has largely been about the technology. I mean, ultimately you can have the fastest driver, but if you haven't got the fastest car, then you're not going to win a race.
Yeah.
So that's why we have two championships. You have a driver's championship and a constructor's championship. So technology and staying at the forefront of technology is the most important for us as a team. Having said that, there are regulations in the sport which prevent technology completely taking over from the drivers. So for example, we can't send signals to the car to change things. We can tell the driver to change settings, but to be able to not only drive a car at 200 miles an hour with 6G being pushed through the neck, but also basically making switch changes on the steering wheel at the same time, it means that you have to be an incredibly talented driver in order to optimize the performance of the car.
Yeah.
So I'd say it's a combination of the two. Technology, yes, is incredibly important and fundamental to how we go racing, but you're always going to have a really, really strong driver to extract the performance of that technology.
It's always amazing to me to watch a race and just to imagine, for me to concentrate driving across town is complicated, but they're doing it for 2 hours at those speeds.
It's pretty impressive.
It's really incredible. You talked about the technology, and obviously there are a lot of stickers on cars out there.
Yeah.
Can you talk just super quickly about what makes the Oracle partnership different, and how are you guys using technology at a high level in ways that are outdoing your competitors?
Yeah, I mean, I would suggest that the partnership that we have with Oracle is a partnership. It goes way beyond just being a sticker on the car. It's the technology that sits behind the car and behind the people that build that car too.
Yeah.
For us and our partnership with Oracle, we're utilizing basically an end-to-end ecosystem of Oracle products, whether that be AI, whether that be cloud, or whether that be the applications that we utilize, for example, to pay our staff, develop our staff, and plot our finances. It's not just the obvious things of how we make strategy calls using OCI or build our engine on the Oracle cloud. It's also, for example, how we plot our budgets to make sure that we're optimizing the amount that we're spending on the car while staying within the budgetary environment of cost cap that we operate in. So I think the reason why it's so integrated is it moves beyond the obvious to things that any business would face as a challenge. But just like any business, if you utilize this Oracle product, it will give you performance, and we're finding that very much. And it's something that we've developed over the years that we've been working with Oracle, and the trust that we've developed in the Oracle products has really enabled us to leverage them and bring performance, as I say, to our people, to our car, and to our business as a whole.
I want to drill down on that just a little bit. You mentioned the trust. One of the things you guys are using is the agentic stuff.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of, we've seen customers move from sort of what I call fear of missing out to FOMO, fear of messing up with AI, right? How do you get people to trust that an automated agent, agentic engineer in the pet lane that's making really critical decisions for you guys?
I mean, ultimately, it's in part due to the consultancy and work that we've done with Oracle, and also the work that they've done with other customers. We're not the first people using this Oracle product, for example. You know, we've seen Oracle using it with other businesses away from Formula One, and if those businesses are trusting it, we'll trust it too. But it's not only that, it's working with engineers embedded alongside our own engineers from Oracle who are feeding into what we're doing and making sure that everything is accurate, everything works. But it's not just that pit wall agent. You know, the applications that we're using have generative AI embedded in them as well.
Right.
So it's very much using AI to, in my opinion, its strengths, which are enabling human beings, removing bits of admin and bits and pieces which detract from what they're great at, which is being humans and making big, important decisions. But that shift is happening to the point that we are now trusting AI to make.
I warned you, that was a little abrupt as they rushed us out of there, but a great conversation with Jack, really talking about how they're using technology to power what is a pretty high pressured business. And you'll hear more from us on that moving forward. But now it's time to, all pun intended, change gears and do a little wardrobe change for Patrick, which he did during the taping, to talk a little bit about ServiceNow and ServiceNow Knowledge. So that was last week in Las Vegas, and I am delighted to be joined by the indomitable Brent Leary to talk about ServiceNow and Knowledge. Hey, Brent.
I don't even know what that word is, but it sounded good. Thank you for joining me. I get to be on with Patrick. This is really kind of some cool, and his racing gear too.
Now he's got his ServiceNow bandana on.
Such a fashionable dog, I tell you. Thanks for having me join you, and it was great being able to hang out some last week. Except I came home with a cold, but you know.
Yeah, I think there were quite a few people that were kind of under the weather.
Oh, well, I'm on the rebound, so I'm feeling better than I did over the weekend.
Yeah. So interesting week with ServiceNow. A lot of talk about chaos and control. Yeah.
And kill switches and what was the other term? Oh, AI thinks, workflow acts. That was a good one. I remember some of these statements, although, you know, they kind of can come off a certain one, they're actually kind of catchy and they make sense. The other one
Yeah, the other one I think was AI can do great things for your business, but it can also do big things to your business.
Yeah, people focus on what AI can do for them. They don't talk about what AI could do to their company.
Yeah.
There was a lot of good. I mean, we're having a little bit of fun, but really the overall message coming out of that, I thought they did a really good job of talking about AI in a much more thoughtful way than maybe earlier in the year that I was hearing from when going to a lot of these events. Credit for putting together not just some memorable catchphrases, but those catchphrases actually, when kind of tied together, they really do make a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's funny because I was talking to one of their partners at the event last week, and he was like, 2 years ago, our C-suite was saying experiment with AI, like use all the tools, like try everything. And now they're coming back and saying, oh, we've got to shut some of this stuff down, or you shouldn't be using it for that. And to a certain extent, I think it's like trying to put toothpaste back in the tube.
I also think that over the last, 6 to 12 months, enterprise software has just been beaten up from a standpoint of is agentic AI going to take over and put enterprise software businesses out of business? And there's a lot of mania that seemed to be going on. And I have been waiting to go to a enterprise SaaS user conference to hear a really good defense of what they do, and not all this, well, we're just going to get a kid in the basement to code enterprise software because he can do it cheap.
Yeah.
ServiceNow and Bill McDermott and actually everybody that was there, they really did a good job of talking about this strategically and the roles, like things like governance and security, which from a CRM perspective, CX perspective, they were never a top line thing. They were there, but you didn't really focus on them. They made a good argument for why that in this agentic world where autonomous workflow is going on, governance and security and taking care of risk are frontline things now.
Yeah. And I think too, the whole idea, people are worried about AI sort of going rogue and doing things it's not supposed to do. But I think they're equally worried about AI sort of going rogue and in the middle of the night making 4 billion LLM calls.
Yeah.
Just go for it, right?
The tokens just did
huge bill. And so I think, everybody's talking now about sort of dashboards and control and monitoring observability. But what I really liked with the ServiceNow story was bringing the impact stuff together with control towers. So I'm watching not just what is the AI doing and is it doing what it's supposed to do, but what's the most efficient way to do that? When is it a workflow versus an LLM call? And what's the actual ROI that I'm getting in terms of time savings, efficiency? I think there's more to talk about on the top line benefit of these things, but I think what they have is a very strong foundation.
Yeah, they did address some of the what I call the AI anxiety out there about if we use this stuff too much, how much is it going to cost us? If we do things that are really complex and chew a lot of tokens, oh my God, are we going to go broke? They addressed a little of that. They didn't get all the way into it, which I'm waiting for a company. Well, Oracle's kind of done that a little bit, but they did do some addressing a little bit around the anxiety around work and people getting put out of work. I know you were keying in on that one. I think Bill McDermott mentioned a number that I had never heard before, about 50 million open positions for specific skills by 2030. And it kind of makes you feel like, oh, wow, there's going to be a lot of opportunity out there. But we're still hearing these stories about people getting laid off. So there's a little bit of a, disconnect in that message versus what we're seeing in real time right now with companies laying off thousands of people at a time.
Yeah, I thought Bill did a pretty good job of addressing that and sort of talking about the skills gap that's going to be open there and what they're trying to do with university. I thought it was also interesting. The different pieces of announcements that came out were really about enabling agents that were built elsewhere to be run and managed on ServiceNow. So it effectively opens up their developer community to a lot of people who aren't necessarily trained on the ServiceNow platform yet. So I think Bill sees the gap in the other direction. I also thought it was interesting what he said about themselves internally, where he said, when you do things efficiently as a business, you can afford to take care of people and compensate them well.
Yeah, we need more of that kind of discussion, not just from ServiceNow. I'm talking about generally speaking, because the headlines that get all the attention are, when thousands of people get laid off, and it's good to have something on the other end to balance out that discussion. I really the AI control tower, I think it's pretty fascinating. The ability to whatever LLM, whatever agent, it could all come through here, and they'll make sure that the agent gets the right access to the right LLM or the right data,
right?
And all of these things that maybe a lot of folks aren't thinking about to the level that not only are their ServiceNow thinking about, but they're putting it together. And I like what you said about that was the first vendor you heard the no kill switch thing, talking about.
Really, really important, right? And while I know it's available in other solutions, sort of being explicit about it, I think calls out the value of something like a control tower, and calls out the value of understanding, if somebody or something is trying to get my AI to go off the rails, what control do I have over kind of monitoring that before it happens? So I can stop it before it does damage, or at least limit its damage.
Yeah, and I really appreciate it. You can tell they put a lot of thought and strategy into what they built. And I had an opportunity to speak a little bit in depth with Colin Fleming, who's their CMO. Excuse me, my voice is starting to go a little bit. To talk about the autonomous CRM. That was one of the pieces that I was really interested in. And knowing Colin's background and where he worked previously, having a conversation with him about what traditional CRM is and now was, and where autonomous CRM kind of picks up the mantle and has evolved into something that's 2 years ago we wouldn't have been really talking about. I have a little clip of that conversation that I could play, and then we can get back to talk a little bit more.
I think when you think about, CRM, the legacy CRM has been relegated to a database. It's more in terms of orchestration and automation and thinking about true agentic AI. And of course, I think ServiceNow is incredibly well positioned here. We found really great ways of bringing together our leadership on the IT side and the HR side into customer relationship management, the similar problems, and really looking at it from a fresh perspective. I think the legacy CRM model has served the industry incredibly well, but customers, we see it in the sort of sentiment data across legacy CRM customers. They wanted something different, and so we've put a lot of work into trying to create that, and really drafting off where the ServiceNow platform has really enabled us to go.
It's a great shot, by the way.
Oh yeah, that was a really cool experience. We were out on the showroom floor, I guess you call it. And they had like cranes, cameras on cranes and swooping in and giving all these. And of course, just sitting down and having a chance to talk with Colin was really cool.
Sure.
But yeah, the whole idea around where does the autonomous CRM fit with the agentic business, and where do we get the lock in between all that and the control towers? There's so much going on. There were so many things going on at ServiceNow. I was really impressed at how, despite all these announcements and all the newness and things that were going on, so you can see there is a lot of cohesion, even though there's so many different things going on. So I really appreciate. It took me maybe coming back and spending a little bit more time, kind of grasping all this stuff. But when you get a chance to kind of see and hear and kind of go back and look at it again, it's like, wow, they really did a comprehensive job of moving where they see things going. And it was really good to hear.
And tying the pieces together too. So with the Microsoft partnership announcement, sort of saying we're going to be the overlord for all the Microsoft co-pilots out there, I thought was super, super interesting if you think about just kind of the competitive landscape. And also with Control Tower and the ROI dashboards, ultimately somebody's going to be calling the shots about whether I use sort of a standalone agent or a CRM agent or a CCaaS agent or a more general platform agent like ServiceNow to execute these sort of end-to-end CX and CRM processes. So who calls that shot? Ultimately, the orchestration, it's the Control Tower, right? So does this put ServiceNow in the position where it's deciding whether it goes to Genesys or whether it goes to Five9 or whether it goes to Salesforce? It's a really, really interesting question.
Yeah, it's a position that I think any one of those companies would love to be in, to be able to make that call. But they built the infrastructure and they've already, it's there. And they had FedEx talking about it and a couple of other companies that were talking about it. And it's an important thing that you need. To be able to kind of manage and track and orchestrate all this stuff and make sure that, third-party agents, they should have access to LLMs and data before they actually do something. And
right.
Yeah,
exactly. And I don't know if you had much of a chance to look at the Armis stuff.
I didn't, but it was really, it was weaved throughout the whole thing. Yeah.
Right. Like I think a lot of us looked at those acquisitions and went,
Yeah.
But when you think about in the terms of how do you get down to the really granular permission level on who has the ability to access what and what their identity is, super, super important if I think about really enabling autonomous AI to fly.
Especially when you think about the number of not just the agents, but the devices and the humans that are going to be all involved in touching LLMs and data and workflows and automations, and being able to track how all of that goes, who touches what, when do they touch it, what's the impact, that's a lot. And it's all just being exponentially scaled up because this is what it takes to run a agentic business. So yeah, and if you really want to have as much of an understanding and control over things, so that you do avoid the big lose our data in 9 seconds that we've seen happen before, you really do need these things in place to feel good about and feel comfortable about trying these things, because you don't want to try it and then 15 seconds later you're out of business. So
right,
they really did a good job of explaining that. And once again, explaining that really lowers the anxiety as a part of the anxiety that companies have, because you don't want to do something and then immediately regret what you did.
Right. And I think too, we've sort of seen adoption outpace understanding to a certain extent, right? And people are not realizing what can happen. And it felt like Wednesday morning when they were talking through a lot of the Control Tower stuff, it was sort of like security blankets were just being handed out across the audience, people went, okay, it's sort of, I know somebody's got my six,
I actually, the day 2 keynote, I think Amit Zaveri was the one kind of driving that one, but
yeah,
they really did a great job of explaining the Control Tower and how it works and what it works and how to make sure, things are doing what you want them to do. What it was, the term, make sure you don't have AI do something to you rather than for you.
Yeah.
Which once again is a really nice way of putting it. But yeah, overall, I thought that it was a really good event. And
agreed.
Despite all the things that they kind of threw at us, you can see where they want to go and why, and although they threw a lot at us, if you give yourself a little bit of time, you understand why this is not the same thing that was 5 years ago. We're in a whole new stratosphere here, and ServiceNow seems to be it. And once again, let's bring NVIDIA into it, because I thought they did a really good job of integrating Jensen Huang into this keynote to, kind of reinforce what they were saying, as opposed to kind of this rudderless, hey, I'm here kind of thing, which
right.
I don't think that worked.
He wasn't just showing up to show up. He had something to say.
Yeah.
We only have a few minutes left. Brent, are you up for doing a crunch time with us?
Ooh, wait a minute. Does that mean, wait a minute, now I got to make sure I have the crunch time theme. So let's see.
Patrick has his questions for you. Ready?
All right, here we go.
Crunch time, where Patrick writes the questions and I just ask them, right?
Does he write them or just woof them?
Yeah, he woofs them. He writes them. No, he vibe codes them. All right. Let's see. What is your least favorite word?
My least favorite word. Okay.
You got him.
Yep. Okay. I hear it way too much. I don't want just okay. I want something else. Give me something different. That's why okay gets a little boring.
Okay. Yes. It's funny that you say that, because we have a rule in our house. You're not allowed to ask somebody if they're doing okay.
What do you ask them? How they're feeling or
how they're doing? Right? Okay is limiting on the positive. That's the way I view it.
Yeah, because they'll just say, yeah. Or,
what's your favorite sound?
It's either a really good guitar riff, or a really good beat, or a really good bass line.
Oh, good.
A good bass line. Like I'll tell you that my favorite bass line, Prince did a song called 7779311. This did a bass line on that. Or if it's a guitar riff, listen to the very beginning of When Doves Cry.
Oh yeah. Definitely. If you could come back in a next life as any person or thing, what would you come back as?
I would love to be able to have the ability to do what Prince did. Just create nonstop, different genres, different sounds. That would be so cool.
Somehow I knew you were going to say that. Anyway, I think that's a great place to wrap it for today. Brent, thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Patrick,
thanks for listening in. We'll see you next time.
Nice. And I love the wardrobe change there, Patrick. Next time it is.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.
Oh, that's when, see, I'm so out of sync. That means we have a crunch exit. So here we go.
Here we go.
The crunch outro.